Hi guys, in this video we're going to be making another doll cake, this time Alice in Wonderland. So I've got a 6-inch board and a 9-inch cake drum, and I've baked just a Victoria sponge. I'll put the recipe in the description box below. So I'm going to stick that to the 6-inch cake card. The larger cake drum that it's on is just for resting it on at the moment, so don't worry if you haven't got one that's the same. So I'm buttercream in the middle, pop the top back on. So I'm cutting out some small thin triangles from the side of the dress so that hopefully when we've got her iced, they'll look like the creases in her dress. So just 2 on each side, just to give it a bit more shape. Okay, so like that. And then we're going to buttercream over the whole thing. Fully buttercreamed. If it's a bit soft, just stick it in the freezer for sort of 15 minutes to firm it up a little bit when you're doing the buttercreaming. So I've dyed some fondant in a blue, a nice pale blue. And we're going to drape that over our cake. Again, I'll put links to everything that I use in the description box below. So smooth that down. I'm just using my hands, but you can use a smoother if you like. And then gently press into those little triangles that we cut out. So don't press really firmly in one go. Go gradually, otherwise you'll tear it at that point. And then we're just going to trim around the bottom edge and just sort of try and tuck it under as much as you can. So I just use the knife to push it under. Again, just make sure it's nice and smooth. And now we're going to cut out her little apron. So I've actually got modelling paste for this rather than fondant. And we're just going to cut out a little white bit, nice and thin. Put a fold in the middle so it looks like it's a bit more fabricy. And I'm just curling up the edges a little bit. And now I've just got a plastic cake dowel. And I'm going to push this right in till it goes to the bottom. Now, if I use this for a body as it is, it's a bit long. So we're going to measure it and we're going to cut a little bit off the end of there. I've cut it so I've got 3 inches of the dowel stuck out above the cake. Just make sure there's no little bits of plastic that will come off anywhere. Make sure it's a nice clean cut. And I've got some Tylose powder that we're just going to add to the fondant now for the body. Now usually I use modelling paste, but because we've already got the right colour in fondant, we're going to add Tylose to firm it up a little bit. And I'm going to leave that to rest while we roll out some icing to cover our cake board. Just stick it down with a little bit of water. Just make sure it's nice and flat. And trim around the edges with a knife. I do have more videos on decorating cake boards if you would like to look at those. And then I've got a series of different sized heart cutters. I don't want to go too big because you're not going to see a lot of the board around the cake when the cake's added. Push the hearts in all the way around, and then I'm going to remove the icing just carefully with a knife. And then we're going to fill those hearts back in with red fondant. And I've got a smaller heart cutter now. I'm just going to go along the inside of those red ones. So creating a slightly smaller circle. This time we're going to fill these ones with black hearts. And you don't have to have a design on the board. I just thought it'd be nice to have a bit of patterning on there. So there's the board. So I'm going to transfer my cake onto the board. Now, you can use a little bit of buttercream to just stick that in place on your board. So now back to the fondant that we've added Tylose to. And we're going to create a little bit of a body shape. Now do be careful because it cracks quite a bit if you've left it a while when it's got the Tylose in, if you've added quite a lot of Tylose. So you want to create a body shape. We've not got too much detail on the body. It's just wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. If her shoulders look a bit too wide, we'll just trim a little bit off with the knife. And again, we've rolled out some more white modelling paste, and I'm going to cut a piece that will be the front of like her little pinny or apron. And I'm using a round cutter to just cut a sort of semicircle shape at the top, which will go up near her neck. And we'll just stick that on there. And we're going to push this onto the cake dowel, but first I'm just going to try and wiggle a hole in the bottom of it with my paintbrush handle so that I don't squash it when I push it on the dowel. And just put that on there. Just stick a little bit of water in between the body and the dress just so that she will stick on nicely. Like that. Back to my white. We're going to cut a really thin strip that's just going to go around her waist, and we'll trim that off at the back. We're going to create a bow. So first of all, we want the 2 little tails of the bow. And we just stick those in place on the back, above her bum. And then almost like 2 fat sort of triangle kind of shapes for the bow itself. And we'll stick those above the tail that we've just added. And then long sort of oval shaped piece, or a little sausage shaped piece I should say. And you're just going to push that around the centre of the bow. And now we're going to move on to her arms. And I've dyed some modelling paste now in a flesh colour. And we're rolling it nice and thin. Try and roll the wrist really thin, so she looks a bit daintier. Squash down the hand, and we're going to cut a little triangle out of each hand. So she's got little mitten-like hands. Stick them on just with a bit of water, or you can use edible glue if you prefer. Do the same for the other side. So for the sleeves, I've got some more of my blue, Just roll a little circle, squish it down so it's still reasonably chunky. And we're going to cut that in half, so you've got a couple of semicircles. And then I've just put a few little lines in the top for indentation so it looks like creases. And then I realised I'm probably going to cover them up when I put the white bits on a pinny. Stick those along the top of each arm with the curved bit pointing upwards, the straight bit downwards. And then I've got a circle cutter now for the rest of the pinny. So cut that in half, and then each of these are just going to go on her shoulders. Again, with a little bit of water, I'm going to stick that just in there, like so. And then for a neck, I've got a thin piece of the flesh colour that we've dyed. Again, I'll put links to all the different colours and things that I've used in the description box below. So wrap that around the neck, or around the dowel, creating the neck. Don't worry too much about the join at the back. With it being covered by the hair, you're not going to see it. And for a collar, we're going back to the blue, and we're going to cut out 2 thin triangles. And you're just going to place these around the bottom of the neck, creating a little collar. For the head, start with an oval of the pale skin tone that we've got. And we're going to push in around sort of the centre of the face, creating a dint that goes all the way around the middle. And then we're going to pull in a little chin, so bring the chin to a bit of a point. I'm just going to go for a simple little oval shaped nose, and then just push in with the modelling tool if you want a bit more definition where the eye sockets are. And I'm just going to use the pointy end of my Dresden tool to draw in a tiny little mouth. And then we're going to give her some ears, so just 2 small balls of the same skin colour, and just push them to the side of the head with the handle of your paintbrush. For the eyes, we want some white, and I've got my oval shaped plunger cutter here. Now they're a bit big as they are, so we're going to trim a little bit off the bottom of both of those. And then we can stick these in place on the face. Don't put too much water on the face, just a tiny dab where each eye's going to go. And I've got a bit of blue left from her dress, so we're going to roll 2 little discs, or 2 circles, and then flatten them into discs. And you're going to place those into the whites of the eyes. And we'll do exactly the same with black, but making the smaller discs. And I'm just putting a little bit of pink edible dusts on her cheek with using a dry brush. Then it's time to paint on her eyelashes. So we're going to paint a line around the top curve of her eye, and then just paint on some tiny little flicks for eyelashes. Only small, not too big. Same with the other eye. Just a small line of the black underneath the eye, don't go too heavy underneath. So a bit of dark brown food colouring now, and we're going to paint on the eyebrows. Make sure you've got a nice thin brush, otherwise you'll find the painting really difficult. And I've got a bit of a deeper blue that I'm just going around the very edge of the blue part of her eye with, like that. And then 2 tiny, tiny balls of white, just pushed in each eye. So I've got a nice rose colour for her lips. And we're just going to paint just a little curve on the bottom lip and the same for the top lip. Again, we're going to push a bit of a hole into the head with the paintbrush handle first, and then we can push that onto the dowel like so. So now onto her hair. I'm just adding a little bit of water to her head, and then we're going to roll some pieces of yellow. Now I've got modelling paste for this, but you can actually do the hair in fondant if you like. So a large teardrop shape now for the front part of her hair. And we're going to push that on so it comes to the centre, and make a matching one for the other side. Careful not to press too hard that you squash her head down onto her neck. So I'm just going to try and lift those a little bit at the front. And then I've got a nice big chunky piece with a point at the end. I'm just going to cut a little slit in it so it looks a bit more hair-like. That will fit over a shoulder like that. So we'll get a bit of water on there, stick it in place, just curl the end a little bit. And then I'm just creating like a bit of an odd shape that's going to sort of tuck in between her neck and her shoulder on the other side. So like that. Basically it's just going to support her head and stop her head squishing down too much. Then we want a much larger piece for the main part of her hair. So I've just flattened it with my fingers, and I'm just gradually working it out with my thumbs. So cut a couple of little slits in so it looks like pieces of hair. I'll get plenty of water inside that, and we're going to push that on to the back of her head so that it meets up with the front pieces, and then play around with it until you're happy with the position it's in. And then I've got a couple of smaller pieces. Oh, and I got my head in the way there. I'm just tucking in at either side to just give her a bit more volume. Then she just needs her black little headband. So just a thin piece of black going across the top of her head, and then just a tiny bow. So 2 sort of teardrop shapes I've kind of created here for the bow. Just use a bit of water to stick them in place, and then a tiny, tiny ball of black in the centre of the bow. And she's about done now. And finish it off with a bit of ribbon. I couldn't decide between white or black, but I decided on black in the end. And then she's all done. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.
If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.